Hi, I'm Ms. Bassing. I teach filmmaking at Pedro Vista High School. In the middle of COVID, they introduced this idea of the lowest grade that students could get on anything, on homework, assessment, practice, anything, is a 50%. So students we weren't able to put zeros in the grade book. We did that for about 3 years, and then this school year has been the first year that we're back.
I don't think it was a great decision because last year I was lazy as crap because I could just turn in one assignment and pass.
Yeah.
And my GPA was super low last year too because of that. And everyone was just goofing off from it and stuff. But this year, because they made it harder, kids are trying now, and I've seen greater results from it, and I've had a higher GPA.
I was just able to speak with some of my colleagues here at the high school, and their experience with the 50% rule was very different than mine. Both of these teachers teach core classes, and they expressed how they feel like their students actually took their core classes more seriously than they took some of their electives. So I feel like that's kind of a reflection on my class, which is an elective, that these kids think they're able to not take it very serious, that their grade didn't necessarily matter. They did say as well that since they brought back the 50% rule, that they had more students who are struggling this year. They're failing. Even the high functioning students in their classes are the ones that that in the past they realized that they didn't have to work as hard to get the same grade. And so now when they do have to do all of the work and turn in all of the assignments, that they're falling behind because they got used to not having to do all of the assignments. They knew they could rely on that 50%.
I think it was good because it helped students keep their grades up, and it could create more graduates, have a higher graduation rate for schools.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's more kids can slack off and turn in one assignment and call it good. Bad thing about the 50% rule was there was a bunch of students who didn't do their work and didn't actually understand the content and just did the easy assignments and got the grade and got a passing grade.
Yeah.
And this year, since there's no 50%, it's students are failing more because they're not putting the effort in that they need to put in. And the students that are putting the effort in are actually getting the grade that they deserve.
Sure.
And the recognition.
It has been my personal experience that my grade book pretty much stayed the same. There were students who failed, and it didn't matter if they failed with a 20% or if they failed with a 51%. They were the same students that were failing. And same with my students that were passing. I don't feel like there were many more students who actually passed my class because of the 50% rule. It's pretty clear across the board, for my class at least, that it didn't matter if we had the 50% rule or not.
I like the 50% rule because it gave me an extra chance at getting a good grade on a test or something like that, or an assignment. But I do think if you give kids that actually do stuff in the classroom, like the 50%, then that could benefit them. But for kids that don't do anything, they're just on their phone or they're not doing their assignment, then I wouldn't give them that 50%. Just give them a 0, because it would only benefit the kids that actually do something than the kids that don't do anything.
I don't really think it helped motivation for the higher functioning students, and I don't think it motivated the lower functioning students. They sat there on their phones and felt like they only needed to do 1 or 2 assignments and they would still be able to pass the class, which may be true. But when it came down to the midterm and the final, the kids that essentially had a 0 in the class, or 50%, they didn't know it all because they didn't do the assignments all the way through the class. So they were really struggling to try to kind of play catch up and really understand what we were doing in the class because they hadn't been participating.
Most of these kids either plan on going to college or not. And in college, it's never going to be like that. In fact, in college, it's if you don't have a C, you're failing and stuff. So it's important for us to be able to do that work and stuff and be able to get a good working habit.
Would that help your motivation?
Yeah, probably.
Or would you still select which projects you did and which ones you didn't do?
I would probably still select the certain projects.
As long as they're turning in the work, then the lowest grade you could get was 50. You couldn't get anything less than that.
Right.
Would be fair?
Yeah, I think it would be fair.
So now maybe the real question is, this comes down to motivation. It doesn't have to necessarily do with what kinds of grades the students are receiving. It's how much of these students are bought into our programs. How serious are they taking school? Do they care about having good grades, or do they don't care about having good grades?